Attachment is the invisible prison most never realize they've built around themselves. While everyone's frantically clinging to outcomes, people, and identities, the truly powerful are practicing the art of letting go. What if your desperate grip on everything you want is precisely what's preventing you from having it? The greatest paradox of fulfillment isn't in holding on tighter. It's in mastering the courage to release. The most misunderstood force for transformation isn't ambition, discipline, or even courage. It's detachment. The ability to exist without emotional handcuffs to specific outcomes, validations, or fantasies. Let's uncover why your attachments are secretly sabotaging everything you're working toward, and how the practice of detachment will revolutionize your relationship with success, failure, and the turbulent space between them. Most assume detachment means not caring, becoming emotionally numb, or surrendering your desires. This profound misunderstanding is why so many remain trapped in cycles of disappointment and reactivity. True detachment isn't abandoning your desires, it's pursuing them without making your emotional stability hostage to their fulfillment. It's the difference between saying I want this, but I don't need it to be okay, versus I must have this or I'm worthless. The attached person and the detached person can pursue identical goals, but they experience entirely different journeys. One suffers tremendously. The other remains centered, regardless of external circumstances. Let's break down the 5 dimensions of detachment that will transform how you navigate both achievement and disappointment. First, recognize your emotional hostage situations. Your attachments aren't just preferences, they're emotional ultimatums you've given to life. They sound like, I must get this promotion or my career is a failure. This relationship has to work or I'll never find love. My body needs to look a certain way or I'm unworthy. This project must succeed or my talent is fraudulent. Every time you create these rigid demands, you're surrendering your peace to factors beyond your control. You've essentially handed your emotional well-being to external circumstances and said, here, you decide whether I suffer or thrive. This is a self-created vulnerability to unnecessary pain. Detachment begins by identifying where you've created these emotional hostage situations. Where have you decided that certain outcomes aren't just preferred, but are required for your happiness? Because these aren't harmless thoughts, they're the architecture of your suffering. And they reveal where detachment most urgently needs to be practiced. Second, dismantle the illusion of control. The most savage truth awaiting your acceptance is that you control infinitely less than you believe. You can influence outcomes, but you cannot command them. Your preparation doesn't guarantee the promotion. Your devotion doesn't ensure reciprocation in relationships. Your talent doesn't automatically translate to recognition. Your effort doesn't always yield proportional results. The attached person lives in perpetual war with this reality, exhausting themselves fighting against it, feeling betrayed when their control proves illusory. The detached person acknowledges this truth without resentment. They understand that their domain of control extends only to their actions, responses, and interpretations, not to external outcomes. It's liberating when you stop battling against reality's fundamental nature. You reclaim the energy wasted in that futile struggle. Detachment means fully investing in what you can control, while releasing the burden of commanding what you cannot. It's the wisdom to discern the difference, and the courage to let go accordingly. Third, embrace outcome independence. The most counterintuitive paradox of achievement is that your attachment to specific outcomes often prevents you from attaining them. When you desperately need a particular result, you trigger a cascade of counterproductive patterns. Anxiety clouds your judgment. Desperation repels opportunities. Fear of failure creates hesitation. Fixation on the goal distracts from the process. The need for validation makes you compromise your authenticity. Outcome independence isn't apathy toward results, it's strategic detachment that heightens your performance by freeing you from the psychological interference of attachment. The writer who needs their novel to succeed struggles to create authentically. The entrepreneur who must secure specific funding makes compromised decisions. The person desperate for a relationship projects neediness that repels connection. By contrast, outcome independence creates a psychological environment where your best work naturally emerges. Without the contamination of desperation, your creativity flows. Your decisions improve. Your presence becomes magnetic. Releasing your attachment to outcomes often makes those very outcomes more attainable. What you pursue with open hands frequently comes to you faster than what you grasp with clenched fists. Fourth, sever your identity from external validation. The most insidious attachment isn't to outcomes, but to the validation they represent. We pursue achievements, not just for their inherent value, but for how they affirm our worth, competence, or desirability. Each time you allow external feedback to define your inherent value, you're practicing attachment in its most dangerous form. You've outsourced your self-concept to sources you cannot control. Detachment requires reclaiming ownership of your identity. Defining yourself by your values, character, and growth, rather than external markers of success or validation from others. This doesn't mean ignoring feedback or rejecting recognition. It means those external responses no longer hold the power to elevate or demolish your sense of worth. The truly detached person can receive both scathing criticism and lavish praise with the same centered response. That's interesting information about how my work is perceived, but neither defines who I am. This form of detachment is psychologically protective. When your identity isn't contingent on specific reactions, you're free to take authentic risks. Speak difficult truths and create work that matters, rather than work that placates. Fifth, practice deliberate impermanence. Everything you're attached to shares one inevitable quality: impermanence. The promotion will eventually lead to another challenge. The relationship will transform or end. The achievement's satisfaction will fade. The possession will decay. Attachment causes suffering, precisely because it attempts to freeze an inherently fluid reality. It resists the fundamental nature of existence, that is, constant change. Deliberate impermanence means consciously engaging with the temporary nature of everything you value. Not to diminish its importance, but to experience it more fully, by acknowledging its transience. This practice doesn't make you treasure things less, it allows you to appreciate them more deeply, because you're no longer taking their permanence for granted. When you hold your achievements, relationships, and possessions with the awareness that they are temporary gifts, rather than permanent acquisitions, you simultaneously increase your gratitude and decrease your suffering when change inevitably occurs. Detachment through recognizing impermanence is the ultimate realism that heightens your experience of the present by liberating it from the desperate grip of attachment. Let me share something personal. My journey with detachment began when I realized my well-being had become completely dependent on external validation. Each criticism felt like an attack on my existence. Each achievement provided only fleeting satisfaction before I needed the next hit of validation. I wasn't pursuing goals, I was seeking emotional regulation through external achievements. And it was exhausting. The pivotal realization wasn't that I should care less, it was that I could care deeply, while severing the link between outcomes and my emotional stability. I could pursue excellence without making my worth contingent on its recognition. This shift didn't diminish my ambition, it purified it. I no longer pursued achievement as emotional medication. I pursued it from a place of genuine purpose, rather than psychological lack. Your attachments create an emotional experience where you perpetually live in one of two states: anxiety about potentially not getting what you want, or temporary relief that quickly resets to anxiety. Detachment offers an alternative: pursuing your desires while remaining emotionally sovereign, regardless of outcomes. This doesn't mean becoming passive. The detached person can be fiercely ambitious, deeply loving, and passionately engaged. The difference lies not in their external actions, but in their internal relationship to results. Begin practicing detachment by identifying your emotional hostage situations. Acknowledge the limits of your control. Cultivate outcome independence. Define yourself independently of external validation. And embrace the impermanence of everything you value. The ultimate freedom isn't found in getting everything you want, it's found in wanting without the emotional desperation that transforms desire into suffering. Attachment says, I must have this to be whole. Detachment responds, I am already whole, which allows me to pursue this authentically. In that subtle shift lies liberation. If this message illuminated something for you, share in the comments where detachment might transform your relationship with the current struggle. Your insight might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Subscribe for more conversations that challenge conventional thinking about success and fulfillment. Remember, the tighter you grip, the more slips through your fingers.